What's going on, YouTube? OCD for EDC here, and what I've got for your face balls today, we're talking autos. I brought out several different autos. So we've got different side opening autos. This one here being an Axis style auto, or Able auto from Hogue. This is the Hogue Ballista, by the way. Here is a push button auto from Boker. This is a Kalashnikov. And then we have, a hidden style auto like the Magic Whiskers here. This is the Magic Whiskers 2 from ProTech. But these are examples of all side opening autos. This video, however, is going to be more about dual action OTF autos, like this fantastic little piece here. This is the Guardian Tactical GTX 025. Fantastic little piece right there. And then I've also got its big brother. This is the Recon Elite, and this is the 4-inch variation of this exact same knife right here, Guardian Tactical. Now, when it comes to OTFs, Guardian Tactical has certainly been my favorite and kind of my go-to for multiple different reasons, which we're going to get into. But recently, there has been a new brand come to the table. This one right here. This is the Axial Gear OTF. And it's a extremely nice OTF. They say that they're made here in the States. I think they're based out of Utah, I'm pretty sure. But this one here was loaned to me by Lefty EDC, and you guys may have seen me unpackage this knife, where, with all OTFs and all automatics in general, even side opening autos, they all have just the tiniest hint of blade play. And they have that for good reason, because you need to just, the springs in here are not crazy strong. And so the springs need to overcome the friction in the case of a side opening auto. And so, although like on this ProTech, it's very, very slight, but that's what you're getting when you buy a quality knife like that. With this Kalashnikov, you have a little bit more blade play, but if I tighten that pivot down too much, it's not going to open up. There's just too much friction for the spring to overcome. And so it's pretty typical for automatics to have just a hint of blade play. Now, with all that being said, Grant and Gavin Hawk do make an OTF called the Deadlock that does not have any blade play. But it's the only one of its kind, and that's only in, the mechanism that throws the blade in and out is exactly like the others. They just have figured out a wedge system that pins the blade in on the open, which is awesome and works extremely well. I do not have a Deadlock to show you. I have handled a couple of them, and they're phenomenal. They really are. But you also pay for that. So here on this Guardian Tactical, there's just the ever so slightly a little bit of blade play here on a 4-inch OTF. And then on the GXT 025, same thing, tiny little bit of blade play. So the other day when I opened up this Axial Gear OTF, I was just checking to see if there, what the blade play was like, and if it was comparable to like a Guardian Tactical. And when I did that, I did this right here, and that happened. So now a lot of people refer to this as being off track. And I'll actually show you, we're going to take these apart, and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on inside here, and we're going to compare it to this guy right here, just so we have a good size representation. And I'm going to show you the mechanism, and we're going to get deep into the auto mechanism and how it operates and why this one has this issue. Now, I don't want this to reflect negatively on Axial at all. I'm not bashing them or anything like that. I have no idea how many models they have out there, or not models, but how many pieces they have out there. They very well, this may be the only one that's like this. I'm not sure. Just happens to be. This is the one that I got my hands on. And if you do a little bit of blade shaking, you can absolutely get that blade to fall in. Let me see here if I got something that I can push the blade up against. Hold on just a second. Okay, I got a little piece of cardboard here. I should have grabbed that earlier. But where this will become a problem is if, you know, you're pushing in on the knife, and you don't really have to push hard, but then you shake a little bit, and there you go. The blade falls in. So get the blade out here. So I'm pulling out on it. It's locked up here. So just like that. And then I'll show you again. I'm not touching the switch. So if I push the tip down and just shake around just a little bit, it falls right in just like that. So I'm going to show you exactly what's going on here and why this knife reliably opens and closes. There's no issues with the mechanism at all. But we're going to get into it and figure out what exactly is going on here. So let's get these side opening autos out of the way. The other thing I've got here is a piece of shit old Lightning OTF. We're going to tear that guy open as well to see what the differences are. So we're going to take apart these three. Now I think this is all T6. So we'll get the old VHA out here. And then also I'm going to pull out, because I think we're going to need a couple other tools as well. I'm going to pull out the old iFixit kit, just so we have that ready to go. Real quick, anybody interested in picking up a sweet OCD for EDC pocket pen, you can go check out OCDforedc.com, as well as CMEs for Spyderco compression lock knives. We've got multiple different colorways and for different knives and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, got a bunch of cool stuff on the website, so go check that out. Go pick up some stuff. Get your holiday shopping in. There you go. Okay, so first up, we're going to pop this guy apart. First, I'm going to take the pocket clip off. So this is all T6 hardware. And I really like the way that they've done the pocket clip here. Let me grab a little cup here to put the hardware in. And I like the way the pocket clip fits in there, as well as, you know, they don't have any sharp glass breaker or anything on the end here. Now, Guardian Tactical does put a little hardened bearing on the end, but it's not sharp, so it doesn't bother me. I hate it when they put, you know, some sort of glass breaker on that's pointy, and yeah, I don't know. It just frustrates me because, you know, I'm not looking to have any sort of glass breaking stuff on my EDC knife. I'm fine with just having a knife, but that's me. To each their own. Okay, so once we get into this guy, so what we're looking at here material wise, we've got I think it's either, I don't know if it's 6061 T6 aluminum, might be 7075. I can't remember what grade aluminum, but certainly hard anodized aluminum handle. You can see we've got a hardened steel insert there for the threads for the pocket clip. Very nicely machined. Looks to be really good quality. It feels great in hand. And here is the mechanism. Very, very standard fare for an OTF knife. So you can see the way that the switch operates here. There's a couple of shelves on the switch. Let me get it out of here. There we go. So there's a couple of shelves down each side that align with a groove or a milled out track in the handle. And so that just slides back and forth right there in that little groove. And then there's a little milled out section in the switch that corresponds with that tab right there. You can see it sticks up and interfaces with where the switch would go. And so this is the carriage that controls the spring. Okay? And the way this operates, and the way an OTF works, and this is true with Microtech, Guardian Tactical, Heretic, the Lightning, all these operate the same way. If it's a dual action OTF, this is how all of these knives operate. We're going to be here a minute. I'm going to pull my chair over. Okay. So you can see we've got these two little tabs. Let me grab a little pointing tool. So these two little tabs right here, and they are spring loaded. You can see that this one is spring loaded in this direction. So the spring is pushing it down. And then we've got a second tab over here that's spring loaded, pushing up. Okay. And these are hardened steel. These little inserts are hardened steel. And this one back here holds the blade in. And you can see we've got this rivet right here, which comes into play here in just a moment. But when the knife is closed, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this spring real quick. There we go. And I'll explain how the spring works in just a moment, but it'll make it easier for me to show you how this operates. So this spring is what is doing all the work here. Some OTFs have two springs, some only have one, like this. I can show you real quick. So there's the spring, and then you've got a piece on either end that has a 90-degree finger sticking down that grabs a hold of the blade. Now this one goes at the end of the blade, which is working off the blade tang, so you can see it's a little bit bigger. And then this one here is actually a machined component, and it's got kind of a little circular pattern to it, and that grabs a hold of that rivet. And so I'll show you how this works. So you've got this this mechanism here, the carriage, and you can see that we have a ramp right here, and this is for the closing action, and or I should say this is actually for the opening action, but it controls the little dog here in the back that keeps the blade closed. And then this ramp right here is for the closing action and keeps the blade out. And the way this operates is this sits in a little machined groove here, and it's able to slide back and forth just like this. And so when the blade is in the closed position, like it is right now, so you've got this spring that's sticking over the back end right here, and that L shape, that leg sticking down, sticks down past the tang of the blade, so it's getting caught back here underneath the blade. And as you push the switch forward, you're sliding this carriage forward, which is tensioning this spring. Tension, tension, tension. And then watch right here as I slide that forward, it overcomes that catch right there, and then it shoots and fires the blade forward. And at this point, from right there, where the blade tang is right there, on, so once the blade tang goes forward like this, from that point on, the blade is just free. It's just working under its own momentum. So just the weight of the blade is carrying it out. And if you watch right up here, you'll see that catch, or that dog right there. The blade keeps sliding, and then boom, it locks into place right there. So now what you've got is the blade deployed, and now the blade is caught. The blade tang is up against this little notch right here, and we have a notch, or this piece right here. It's kind of hard to see because it's all black, but there is a piece that sits proud, this guy right there, and that rivet that's in the blade right here is caught between that the top handle cover and this catch right there. Okay, and that's what keeps the blade deployed. Now, same situation on the return. So now our carriage is in this forward position, and you can see that our rivet is just ever so slightly sticking this direction of the carriage. And so now we're talking about this piece that it comes into play. That little L-shaped piece, or the protrusion down, grabs a hold of that rivet, and as you move the switch backwards, so you're pulling, and now it's tensioning the spring, tension, tension, and then you watch right here, it's kind of hard to see on this one because it's behind that switch, but that ramp that's behind there on the carriage is pushing that dog up. So you can see right there, boom, it's up all the way. You can see it's sitting parallel with the blade now, and now the blade is free to move back in. So when people say that an OTF is off track, it's not necessarily off track. It's just in a state that it is between its fully deployed position or its fully closed position. And so that means that the switch at that point, the spring is not interfacing with the blade on either end. So at that point in time, you can slide the blade in and out, as well as move the switch freely, because the spring cannot interface with the blade on either end, and the blade is not fully extended or fully retracted. And so the way to fix that is to either pull the blade out all the way and lock it in that position, or push it all the way in and lock it, which you can do with momentum or centrifugal force, and you know, smack the knife against your hand or something like that, just to get the momentum of the blade to lock in there. But in this case here, the reason why this lock is failing is purely just because we have a rounded corner on this little catch, as well as a rounded corner on the tang of the blade. Now, the unfortunate part about this Axial OTF, you cannot remove the blade from the handle. It's actually riveted in, which I'm going to show you here in a moment. So real quick, I'm going to pull this guy apart. I think these are T8. Yes, they are. Now, this is an old busted Lightning OTF. You know, these things are like $30 or something like that. And this one, you know, worked for a while. I beat the hell out of it many years ago. This thing's been around for quite some time, as the paint would suggest. But, and so it doesn't even work correctly anymore. But I just want to show you some of the differences here. Okay, I'm just going to throw this hardware up over here. All right, so same exact scenario right here, except for we have two springs, but we have a catch here in the front. So I'm just going to get these springs out of here. So instead of having a machined piece, you can see that these are both just bent pieces of steel on either end, but same exact scenario. Grabs the blade in the exact same way. You can see that the switch interfaces, and we've got the catch right down here. So you can see it right there, and as I move the switch forward, you can see it pushes that catch down, which then releases the blade. And then same thing, we have another catch, spring-loaded catch up on the top, doing the exact same thing. So here you go, right down here and right up here. You can see it right there. And you can see that this blade is riveted in, just like the Axial is, which is a bummer because you cannot remove the blade without removing that rivet, and you would have to destroy it to remove it. So you'd have to grind it down or drill it out or something to that effect. Now, one of the big differences here, this is a cast aluminum handle, just kind of pot metal, where this is a billet aluminum handle. So a big difference there. And then of course the blade steel on the Axial is 20 CV, where this is crap. But you can see on that Lightning how that mechanism is identical to the Axial. And then I'm going to pull apart this Guardian Tactical real quick and get another little tray out here. So again, this one is T6, which is kind of a bummer. I wish that these American-made ones were T8 hardware. T6 is pretty small hardware, especially for this 4-inch guy. I suppose they work. Okay, let me get this separated here. I'm just going to set that down. All right. So you can see here on the Guardian Tactical, we have a surface ground, hardened steel, so you can see where it was heat treated, the color difference, and then surface ground. And then we've got these machined pieces on either end that are kind of like a little plunger type piece. They've got a half circle shape to them. Come on. If I can get my fingers to work. So you can see that the machining here is very intricate and very tiny. But you can see the shape to these. They're like a D shape or a half circle. But that sticks down and catches the blade on both sides. One of the main differences, so you can see here how robust those pins are. So these are hardened steel, and they have this pivot, and then they have a flat spring steel. The spring is much stiffer in this scenario in comparison to the Lightning and the Axial here, where I don't know if you can see it down in there. You can see some light reflecting off of it, but there's a little tiny coil spring down in there, okay? And so that's one of the things that's adding to the fact that we can overcome the spring tension that's on that catch right there just by, you know, manipulating this blade. Now, with the, yeah, I can see it moving. So as I move the blade, you can see right there, you can see how that piece is moving back and forth. Oh, there it went. It just unlocked. So what we've got is a rounded surface. You can see the end of that catch is actually rounded. There's a radius to it. And then what we've got on the blade tang, and since we can't remove the blade, we can't get in there and inspect it thoroughly, but we've got a radius corner right here on the blade tang that we're dealing with. Now, if that spring tension was greater, to force that down harder, this probably wouldn't happen. But also, you know, because we can't replace the blade or take it out of the handle, it's just a bummer. But you can see here on the Guardian Tactical, you know, how much more robust these catches are. And they're on both sides, same sort of deal. And how much more robust the springs are. Also, we have a hardened steel insert that goes underneath the slide. And so here's the slide out of the Axial. It's just an aluminum switch. Here's the switch for the Guardian Tactical, and it has got 3 ceramic balls where you can see the lines on that hardened steel plate. Hopefully you can see the lines where those ceramic balls slide back and forth, making this a frictionless interface right here. Which is just fantastic. That hardened steel plate and those ceramic balls make all the difference in the world. But one of the main differences here is once I overcome this stop in the back, sorry, I'm trying to do this where you guys can see it. So once I overcome that spring tension and I get the blade slid past there, so now my blade is same deal. It's just free. You know, it's working under its own momentum as it comes flying out. And then it passes this front catch right there. Boom. And now it's stuck in that orientation. And it's stuck between this little catch as well as the front handle. But in this case, we can actually remove the blade. And being able to remove the blade is, in my opinion, kind of the hallmark of a really, you know, nice piece. So you can see here we've got 2 large screws machined out or that go into that machine pocket, and we've got a hardened steel plate that is bolted to the tang of the blade. And that hardened steel plate is where the catches are doing their interfacing front and back. And so that's why we have on the Guardian Tactical, the catches are on both on the same side of the blade, whereas on the Axial, we have one down here and then one up here, and also on the Guardian Tactical, same exact thing. We have one down here and one up here, and you can see that they're very, very similar in construction. They're just a flat metal tab with a coil spring in there. So if you push, anywhere, you can get it to move in funky ways. It doesn't always just rotate about this pivot point back here. Unlike, because of the way that these are built with this rounded area down here, when the carriage interfaces here, these can only rotate. That's all they can do. So it's just a more robust method. And certainly these components here are going to be more expensive to manufacture than just a flat plate that's got rounded corners on it. But, also, having this hardened steel plate on the tang of the blade with screws, there's just more machining involved versus riveting in. But, we also have a cost difference here as well. The Guardian Tactical Recon Elite, really, it would be fair to compare this knife against the Recon 035, which is the 3.5-inch variant. I don't have one of those. I only have this Recon Elite and then the 025. I think these are around $200, something like that, give or take a few dollars. The Axial knives, where the Guardian Tactical, the Recon 035s, the 3.5 variant, I want to say they're like $280. So you're saving about $80 to go with this guy. And most of the Guardian Tactical stuff is running LMAX blade steel. So, they're certainly high quality. But you can see here, where this catch interfaces on the deployed. And then also we go back, bang, right there, and that's on the close. So we're interfacing on either side of this same block on both sides. Now you can see that they do have radiuses cut on that machined block that allow easy movement, but because both surfaces are radiused, similar to the Axial, the difference is here we have much, much higher spring tension that we have to overcome. And so they radius both of these pieces so they slide together easily, and you don't end up with lock stick. But the problem with that is, in the case of the Axial, because we don't have a lot of spring pressure against this catch right here, that thing's very easy to push in. You run the risk of having a knife that doesn't stay locked out very well. And like I said, I'm not bashing Axial here. That's not what this is about. More just, kind of showing you guys how the process of OTFs work, and how all these parts and pieces operate. So you can see here we have the angles on both sides. So when you slide this carriage back and forth, if you guys can see this or not. So, as you go to deploy the blade, the spring's going to be catching that hardened steel plate there. And then as you slide this forward, it pushes that catch down right there. Boom. And then the blade is allowed to slide forward. And so, dual action OTFs are very, very simple in their construction. The mechanism is quite simple. And, a lot of people think like you could go up and, belly somebody with this thing or something like that. And the reality is that once the blade is moving and on its way out, from that point right there on, it's only moving under its own inertia. And so, if you were, of course, if you put your hand in front of it, it's going to cut you. If it's sharp, it's going to cut you a little bit, but it's not going to go through your hand. As a matter of fact, it's probably only going to go in, maybe something like this far. And then the blade will be quote unquote off track, and you'll have to, pull it out to overcome, the detent in the, or the little dog on the way out. So let me put this guy back together real quick. And another thing that I want to talk about is maintenance of OTFs. Now you can see that there is a little bit of oil residue just on this mating surface, but you can also see, let me get my blade out of here, that there is no oil residue on this surface right here. And you can see that's where it's been sliding because of some of the coating. Now you'll never see this portion of blade right here, but you can see that that's where that's been sliding against the frame, as well as down here. And there is no oil on there whatsoever. And the reason for that is that's on purpose. Now you can oil these little catches just a tiny bit. They don't need much at all, but you would need to disassemble the knife to do it, or at least take the cover off to drop just a tiny bit of oil down in there. Otherwise, don't ever put oil down the end of the knife, like in this orientation, on these tracks, because all you're going to do is gum it up. I promise you that over time, if you actually carry your OTF, it's just going to attract pocket lint and dirt to that oil, and then you'll come to a point where the knife just doesn't work anymore. So running it dry, the only thing that I would recommend putting in here, if you had to put some lubricant in there, would be a dry lubricant like graphite. But even then, it's not something that I recommend unless it absolutely has to have it. And mainly just because the graphite's going to, you'll have graphite powder coming out the end of your knife, which is going to get on your hands and stuff. It's just going to make a mess. So my recommendation is, take the knife apart, clean it if it needs it, and that's it. There is no reason to put oil in there whatsoever, like I said. And so on these springs, you can see on the Lightning, there are dual springs. And then on these other two, they're single springs. But you can see here how this operates. And so now in the case of the Guardian Tactical, all of these components are hardened, which is really nice. And so when you assemble the carriage, this is what you have. You have the two hardened steel pieces, and then it's under a little bit of spring tension, but as you slide the carriage one way or another, the blade is pulling on that spring, so you get, like maybe somewhere like 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch of separation from this piece, and then as soon as it overcomes that catch, it throws it out, and then this piece slams back into the carriage and stops. But it's when you're putting an OTF back together, I recommend having the blade in that middle portion so that your spring isn't interfacing with the blade on either end. This just makes it much easier to put the knife back together. So we'll set this down in there. Get it lined up. Right there. And then we'll get this put on like so. Okay, where's my T6? Guardian Tactical is a company that is based out of Pennsylvania. And I've been really, really happy with all the Guardian Tacticals that I've had. I actually got one of these for my father for Father's Day a couple of years ago. And just a little FYI, Omaha Knife is a Guardian Tactical dealer. That's where all of my Guardian Tacticals have come from. So I've got these two that I've shown here today, as well as that one that I picked up from my dad. So now once you're in this state here, you can just pull it out, lock it out, and then you're back in action. All right, let me throw this pocket clip back on real quick just so I don't forget it. Okay. There we go. Back in action on the Guardian Tactical. Now, you can see, you know, to me, I mean, it's okay, I guess. You know, having a difference between either side. The one nice thing about the Guardian Tactical, all the parts are just mirrored images of themselves, which is a nice little feature. So here you have a different piece, you know, that runs on the back of the blade versus the front. That's kind of a weird situation a little bit. And the relaxed portion on this spring, it doesn't seem to want to, yeah, I guess it's okay. Now this piece does appear to be, you know, maybe some sort of hardened steel. It looks coated. Actually both of them do. I'm not sure if it's plated somehow, but similar situation here. So you're gonna have to stretch the spring out to get it locked in there, and then the spring will just sit there under its own tension. Now, you know, if you bump it, it's gonna go flying, but you can see that L shape sticks down over there, and then also the same thing up here, which is going to grab that rivet on the blade. We'll set that right here, and then, you know, so overall, my feelings on the Axial, you know, the handle is very nice. I really like the handle a lot. I wish they would have done the catch system more like the Guardian Tactical, but it is a cheaper knife. You know, all of the internal components here are very, very similar to the Lightning OTF. I mean, if you look at these, just the way that they designed everything here, you know, the catches, you know, the way the blade is riveted in, neither blade is able to come out of the handle. See, same thing. And so, you know, I'm not, you know, by no means, you know, I'm not saying that the Axial is like the Lightning. You know, of course, the Axial is a much, much nicer knife than the Lightning is. However, it's not as nice as the Guardian Tactical. That's for sure. And there's several things about the handle design that I really like. I love the way they did the pocket clip. That part's awesome. I love the fact that they didn't put a stupid glass breaker on it that's pokey and pointy and whatnot, because most of the dual action OTFs have that kind of stuff. So I really like the design here. I just wish that they would have changed the internal mechanism up slightly. Now, you know, it's definitely a better mechanism than the Lightning. The Lightning has this piece here, which you can see it's got a little piece of hardened steel right there that's riveted onto this pot metal or aluminum carriage. It's just a chintzy kind of crappy ordeal, where the Axial is obviously much, much nicer. But it shares enough of the design language in the parts that I feel like matter. You know, I wish it had a different shape on those two dogs, and I wish it used a better quality spring. I just feel like that would be a noticeable improvement. You know, the carriage itself is really nice. The switch is a good switch. It's comfortable. You know, the action on it is really good. So there's a lot of really good positive things here. I like that they actually put a steel insert for the clip screw to screw into. So, you know, there's a lot of good stuff happening here. It's just that there's a few minor things that potentially, could be major things, like if the knife doesn't function correctly. Now, from everything that I've heard about Axial at this point in time, makes me believe that if you got one of their knives and had this type of issue with it, I'm fully confident that they're going to take care of it. I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't. So like I said, I do not, I'm not putting this video out there to bash them or anything like that. If anything, it's a video that I really dig the knife. I think it's super cool. I love the handle shape. It's super comfortable in hand. I love the way that they interface the pocket clip. I love that it's reversible and just the way that it goes on. The action on it is great. There's just that those kind of design issues that are on the inside are just kind of a bummer. I feel like there's the way this works. There we go. The way the interface works, it just leaves too much to be, when you have using those coil springs like that, you can just overcome those locks too easily, in my opinion. So, like I said, I'm pumped on the knife for a bunch of reasons, and then there's a few reasons why I think that the knife is, just a little bit less than, some of the other U.S. made OTFs that are out there on the market today, which, like I said, the Axial is also cheaper than those other knives as well. So we're not comparing apples to apples. So they had to cut some costs somewhere, and I fully understand that. And I applaud them for doing what they're doing, and if anything, I just want to see them succeed and make a knife that people are super excited about, and I think they're off to a really, really good start. But there are a few things that they could improve upon, which is that's just the way things work, and we all have things we can improve upon, like me putting this stupid thing back together. I need to put some hair around these holes a little bit. I can't seem to hit them, but there's that too. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know this is a long ass video, but I also wanted to kind of fully explain the OTF scenario and what's going on, and I also wanted to show off, like, I know a bunch of people saw me open that Axial, and when that happened, I'm sure you guys could probably tell that I was a bit surprised, because I've never had that happen, especially on a good quality OTF. Like these lightnings and stuff, these are a totally different scenario. Like this it's just fucked up. The blade's all bent and shit. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's a piece of shit. But the Axial is not a piece of shit. It's a great knife. It's just got, that one issue right there. But like I said, I am confident that Axial, everything I've heard about them so far, unless something changes, like I said, I'm confident that they are going to stand behind their product and take care of it. So if that is the case with your OTF from Axial, or from anyone, if you get a Guardian Tactical that does that kind of a thing, go back to the manufacturer. They want to put quality product out just like we want to get quality product. But there you go, guys. Those are the OTFs, as well as a couple other side opening autos. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. I'm gone.